Everybody, drop your buffs. Your buddy, buff. Drop your buff.
Welcome back to Drop Your Buffs. I'm Sean Ross.
I'm Evan Ross-Katz.
And we are here talking the Survivor 48 finale. How are you, Evan?
Oh, I am dandy. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, visiting Mother to the Pod, and couldn't be happier. How are you?
I'm great. I just got off, not just got off. I had a full week of work, but spent the weekend at a cottage. Very cold and windy, but it was nice to relax. And I'm looking forward to talking with a very special guest today.
Me too. We'll have her here in just a moment. I did want to hop on the mic in advance because I think I need to issue, I guess, like a correction of sorts.
There we go.
Which is to say, I think, and I'm sure other podcasters can relate to this. I think we've talked about it on the pod before. Like sometimes you think you're just talking to your friend and then you realize it's like a whole audience. We'll introduce you in just a moment, Sophie. She's here. But I just want to issue this quick correction, which is to say, I came on the last podcast with a great amount of confidence in saying, I know the cast of Survivor 50, and there was some hyperbole in that statement, which is to say, I do not have any kind of insider information whatsoever. I had pieced together some things. I definitely think my sentiment was overconfident, which is just to say, I think I have a good inkling of the names being floated. I understand it's all mixing and changing in real time. So I just want to say to anyone out there, I saw some people dragging me for my brand of hyperbole. Drag me, deservedly so. So I just want to say, no. I do not, capital K, know the cast of Survivor 50. Like many of you, I'm sniffing around and think I have a sense of who's out there, but I don't know. None of us will know until next Wednesday when we tune in to CBS Morning to find out. And so that is my correction.
Yeah,
Are you stressed about Amanda Kimmel today? Is that what's happening?
No, we were confident that Amanda Kimmel would not be on the cast, but I just think I think my confidence in asserting that I know the cast came off as though I sort of have, I'm bugged into the system somehow, and I am not.
I think that people forget that we're just two bozos with microphones. I saw that people were like, confirmed by Drop Your Buffs. Reliable source, Drop Your Buffs. I'm like, since when are we a reliable source?
Extremely unreliable, disgustingly unreliable. So please believe nothing we say. And then one other thing I wanted to address quickly before we bring our guest in is that people on, Reddit, are not liking our stand-up of Elizabeth Hasselbeck and the MAGA faction of Survivor 50 in general. And to that I say, we don't give a fuck. Like, that is our brand. They believe in Donald Trump. We believe in them. And I'm so sorry. We have said it before, and we will double, triple, 10 toes down on this one. We are not looking for the cast of Survivor to be people that we are ethically or morally aligned with. We do not give a fuck. We are here for great television, and people that are of all political persuasions make good television, or sometimes they don't. And so this is to say, if you don't like our standing of Elizabeth Hasselbeck, I'm so sorry. This might not be the podcast for you, moving into season 50. Or if the rumors are true, maybe you'll be happy to say that we won't be talking about her much. We shall see.
The people who don't like Elizabeth Hasselbeck have definitely seen her clip of fighting Rosie O'Donnell 10 times on YouTube.
Yeah.
They love that. It's so good. It's so good. How can they not like her and then not want her on the show?
It's
also,
really,
I think, sorry, go ahead.
It's really annoying to equate not liking someone's politics or not liking someone's personality with not wanting them on TV, because what makes...
And not wanting them to suffer on TV.
Exactly.
Why would you...
Yes. What makes
and
Survivor great.
And maybe lose.
Exactly. I mean, there's no world in which Elizabeth Hasselbeck wins Survivor 50. She's never even seen the show with hidden immunity idols in it. She's not winning. We are looking for entertainment here, and she's a great early boot. And what an early boot.
Whoa.
If she wins. I'm also okay if she wins.
I'm okay if she wins too. look, I'm here for
Talk
that
about-
arc. Unlikely, I think, but it seems like it doesn't matter anyways. Okay, wait. Now, you may be hearing a disembodied third voice and wondering, who is that? What are these beautiful tones hitting my ears? Well, we're joined once again by the iconic winner of Survivor South Pacific, robbed queen of Winners at War, fervent defender of Survivor 48, and friend of the pod, Sophie Clarke. Sophie, this is your third time on Drop Your Buffs.
I was wondering if it was second or third. Yeah.
Third. It's like 3.5 actually, because you sent in that long voicemail a couple weeks ago, and we had you on for a fantastic interview a couple of years ago. Then you subbed in for me on the premiere episode, I believe, of Survivor 47. Now we're all reunited here to talk about the finale of Survivor 48, and I'm really excited because you've been in a finale. You've been in a final tribal council. So I really want to get your takes on this. But before we get there, Sophie, how are you?
I am great. Thank you for letting me send that voicemail that was slightly unhinged. I don't know how long it took me to realize. Actually, I think I finished the voicemail and then I realized that it was long over. I will not tell you how much longer I spoke after that 5 minutes that it cut me off. But yeah, I'm good.
Great.
We're so honored to have you here. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass to say you are probably our most demanded returning guest. Our fans absolutely love you, and we understand why, because we share that love for you. I also can't think of a Survivor alumni whose favorability has risen to such an extreme since their original run of the show. And I think that's a combination of your time at Winners at War, but also I think people really enjoy your perspective on New Era gameplay because you have I wouldn't call it a positivity, but I think you bring a really measured perspective that other players just don't.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder, because I know that you guys bring like a different angle, and I don't think I am a total, Kool-Aid positivity, but I do think I fundamentally come from a place of, and I think you guys do too, like, I love Survivor. I'm going to watch Survivor. I'm going to watch any Survivor. That said, my view on the season changed a lot over the last couple episodes. And I will say, I used to love The Bachelor. I watched every season of The Bachelor. I never missed a season. There was a point where I just didn't watch the season. I didn't like the person they chose. And I haven't now seen it in, I don't know, 4 or 5 seasons, and I have no desire to go back. It's just, for me, it just lost its charm. And I don't think that will ever happen for me for Survivor, but for the first time in my life, I have started to question, am I ever going to feel like this is not the magic that that I love? I used to say any season of Survivor is a great season. Any episode of Survivor is a great episode. I think I still fundamentally feel that way, but I will say that there is a small question that has arisen in my brain for the first time ever.
Whoa. Okay. I'm not going to steamroll here, Sean. I'll throw it to you in just a second, but I just have one question to kick things off because I've been curious. Sophie, when you came on the pod last time, you spoke about, what did you call us? We were like, were we the mean podcast? Or what did you say last time?
Oh, your husband had listened and you said that we were a little bitchy.
Yeah. Okay, bitchy. Since then, we have invited you into the close friends on our Instagram, and I just wanted to get your perspective because we kind of think of the Instagram as an offshoot, but it's very separate from the podcast. And I'm wondering, what's your take on the tone of the Instagram close friends?
Oh my! So first of all, I don't know what the Instagram close friend. I didn't know that was exclusive. I would love to know how exclusive that is. I will also say that part of the reason I was kind of excited to come on this podcast is I listened to your interview with Rob, and I listened to you talk about survivors that you're friends with and survivors that you have no desire to get a drink with. And I will say I had a real moment where I was like, wow, if I was in New York and I reached out to Sean and Evan and asked for a drink, 'cause by the way, I would love to get a drink. But part of me is like, maybe I just love to get a drink because you guys are interesting people. But maybe you don't think, I will just say I had massive questioning of what cat would you want to get a drink? And by the way, you don't have to want to get a drink. I'm totally okay with being just a very interesting person that you see on TV and has a, particular personality or perspective that you like to see in a podcast. But I did have a whole moment of wondering where I fall in your kind of ranking and tiering of who would be, interesting enough to have a personal. Listen, I don't want to have a personal relationship with anybody. I don't want to have a personal relationship with most people in Survivor. But I will say, you don't have to answer it now. That's part of my goal in coming on this podcast, is just knowing a little bit better about where I stand. And I would love to know also this close friend thing. Like, does that get me higher into that tier, or is that just like kind of, a brand thing that really means everybody's in? But no, I love the close friend content. I don't think that's bitchy at all. What's the bitchy example of the close friend content? No,
We're the ones creating it, so it's your perspective we're looking for.
No, I mean, first of all, my husband was the one who said bitchy. But no,
we
I
love
love
that,
the
by the
Instagram
way.
content. I love the Instagram content. I do think, I mean, I actually don't know because I feel like I'm not plugged in enough to pop culture. I do think that you guys have a very particular kind of way of focusing in on very small, amazing moments that people might miss. And obviously, this is in like White Lotus, but also in Survivor. And I don't know how much of that is you guys doing something that is like broader in the culture versus how much you guys have in some ways shaped that as like a way to comment on TV, or at least Survivor. I definitely feel like that's something that I saw you guys do first.
Wow, that's so nice. First of all, would love to get a drink, Sophie. By all means. I don't even live in New York. I live in Toronto. But if you're in Toronto, if you're in New York, I'll fly there. I will fly there and get a drink. So,
my uncle's in Toronto. We'll get a drink.
Oh my God. Look, you're in the inner circle. How many? Okay, the close friends isn't all that exclusive. Basically, if you're a paid subscriber to our Substack, you get access to the close friends. So there's well over 1,000. But in terms of close, friends and family,
Non-paid.
close friends, comp sort of a deal. That's a rarefied group, and there's a handful of survivors that we've let in there.
And I would say I would place you in tier 1 of the alumni. And I would say I would not be at all afraid to tell you if you are not in tier 1. That would not be something I would need to hedge.
Good. And that's what I wanted to make clear. Like, I'm okay with that.
No.
I want to know. I want to know.
I'd be okay with telling you.
You guys have a friend crush on me. And that would be nice because I have a friend crush on you. Not to say that we ever have to act on it. We might never act on it. I just want to know, we all
Totally.
know.
I would say, in general, if you're invited onto the pod, you are tier 1 or tier 2. But I think moving forward, we will be inviting some tier 3s on.
You already have, Evan.
Just for conversation's sake. But I think that our audience will always be aware tonally of where we stand in terms of how we approach the interview. But yeah, I mean, the inner sanctum, just to be clear, I mean, I'm not going to name all the names here, but I think it's like, obviously the Parvs, obviously the Sophies, obviously the Aussies, obviously the Angelinas, obviously the Mikes. I mean,
Courtney
it's the
Yates.
people, Courtney Yates for certain. I think it's the people that, whenever we're talking about the show, constantly come up as examples of things. But then I think within that is also just like Jerry Manthe is someone we both love on Survivor, but we love her on Drop Your Buffs. And so I think you have a sort of like an asterisk in the positive next to your name, which is to say we not only love Sophie Clarke, the Survivor player, we love Sophie Clarke, the Survivor commenter. Rob Sesternino would also have that distinction as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. This podcast is going to go really well. I feel like this is a great way to kick off. Do you guys ever invite anybody on the podcast, or have you yet? Or maybe it sounds like this is tier 3, that you're kind of trolling low key as you interview?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because Mitch from this season just commented on my latest meme and said, "Can't wait to chat." And I thought, should we?
I think we definitely should.
I don't think that we had a person on yet that we had on in a trolling sort of manner.
Yeah.
But there's certainly, I think, a subset, a list somewhere in the back of my mind of who could be on that. Does anybody spring to mind for you, Evan?
It's tough because I get a little gun shy now because of things like Reddit. And I think that this is why I love the close friends and our paywall and everything, which is that I feel like there's a shared language that we all have in terms of the tone with which we're speaking. And I think sometimes we've run into issues, I mean, Sean, with some alumni, for instance, of us speaking a truth that we kind of stand behind, but understanding that their perspective as the listener, it's a different way in which they're receiving what we're putting down.
Yeah.
And so that sort of tension can exist. And so there are people that I think could come on and we could troll them and it would be fun. And then there are people that I think it could be perceived as bullying, the like approach that we might, that we might give off. But I I mean, no, I feel like so the problem with the kind of people that you'd want to troll, like this is sort of a general casting frustration, is there's so much self-awareness in so much of the casting today. And so the actual kind of people you really want to troll, like your Karen Gradell type people, they don't really exist on the show anymore. So it would kind of be difficult amongst new era players who are the most accessible.
Who would have to be, I think, like a Jelinski or something like that, right? Which it doesn't seem as fun to me because it's too easy to troll. Where I would want to troll somebody like Tony Vlachos, right? Like that's who I want to troll. Yeah. Who is a legend in his own right, and I do respect in a lot of ways, but in the world of Drop Your Buffs would be a troll interview.
How much do you think that because I agree, like the self-awareness of current day survivors for me is like what loses the magic. This feeling of I'm watching just people like play act Survivor. Like I just want to watch people. And how much of that do you think is the casting, and how much of that is potentially just like our current world? Like, are there fewer, less self-aware people to put on the show?
I have been wondering about this because the casting process, I think, has changed. Obviously, with Lynn Spillman's departure, Jesse Tannenbaum coming in, I think they've changed their approach to the kinds of people that they're casting, for better or worse. And one of the things that I noticed is that there's a YouTube video out there of Jesse Tannenbaum giving casting tips. And one of the things that he says, and I think one of the things that the host has said over the recent years, is that they're looking for people who know who they are and know what they stand for. And I think that translates to having too much self-awareness.
Yeah.
Because I think that the great Survivor characters and the causers of drama are those people who don't have any self-awareness.
Huge blind spots. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think you get glimmers of that here and there in the new era of like, oh, this person thinks... Mitch is a great example. Mitch seems to think that he is, a force to be reckoned with on Survivor 48. And yet as the audience, we're like, oh, there's a disconnect. What didn't translate was that there was no disconnect between him and the players that he was playing with. It was only a disconnect for him, the television character, and the audience. And I think you need that interplay between the players as well to create the real drama of old school Survivor.
I also feel like there's a shift in the edit that's happened in New Era because there's a version of Mitch presented on this show that makes him the dodo bird. And I feel like both with Mitch, and I noticed it especially in this episode with Eva, and I think with Joe, because I think there's a side of Joe that was never shown on this season, and I'm strictly
like dodo
speculating.
Bird Joe.
No, I think like not so like kind dad, sweet like savior.
And I mean, anybody, right, who presents as that makes you question a little bit, right? And you can think about the two things I think about are one, kind of the David relationship he had, right? And this so that, and then the second one is I don't know if I was just projecting how I would feel, but when Eva opened up this episode about having gone to Brown and all this stuff, I felt like he was angry. I mean, maybe part of it is like I would be angry, like, right, to have your like reality shattered, and of this idea of that you are this person's protector in some way, right? He positioned himself as that, and that he was, right, she was, I don't know, subservient to him in some ways, and she needed him, and to find this part of her that maybe she didn't need him in some ways that he thought she did. I guess I saw anger in his eyes around that. I certainly would have been angry, but yeah, I agree about Joe.
On that note, you've obviously been at Final Tribals. Do you feel like if you were on the jury bench, or even in your position of just being one of the final three, and you find out that a fellow castaway, lied about their career, but for no reason that really factored, I'm wondering what your reaction would be to that, because I think for a lot of us with this Kyle and Eva reveal, we're kind of like, to what end? And I think we wonder this a lot with these lawyers that come on and are constantly like, I'm going to tell them I'm a school teacher, or what have you. Does that factor at all into your decision as a jury member?
Well, So my reaction to the Ava one, and then what my reaction would have been on the jury was, to me, it really just felt like it was like it displayed ego. Like, you think you're so important and so educated and so much better than who you could have possibly been cast with, that you wouldn't want to tell them this thing. And particularly given like the other challenges that she clearly has in her life, right? The idea that like this couldn't have been something that she could have said, for me, is mostly a reflection of maybe pride and ego. Kyle, I felt that a little bit less so. I think the way you get away with it, if I was Kyle, right, is just say, listen, this is not a big deal. Like, I don't see what the big deal is about being a lawyer, but there's this weird, pattern on Survivor where people get freaked out and they shouldn't. And so I felt like I shouldn't say it, but to downplay it, but both of them kind of acting as if it was this huge, it made them better than. That was a real turnoff to me, and I can't see how that was. For me as a jury, it would have been a negative, not a positive.
Yeah.
Is there any job that you think should be lied about or concealed on Survivor? Like, I often wonder.
Reality producer, maybe.
That's a great
producer.
one. Former reality winner.
Yeah.
We saw that in Deal or No Deal Island with
jobs.
David Janae, having been an Australian Survivor winner and then going on and not revealing that. But the only thing I can ever think of is cop, because people may have a perception around that.
Yeah. I think it has to be very specific to the people that you're on the tribe with and make sense, right? Have a reason that isn't about, I thought I was so important, right? Have a reason to, I wanted to bond with you all, and I felt like this was going to be a barrier. I felt like you were not going to know me because you were going to see this. But I feel like this recent era of just, y'all don't know how educated and great I am. Like, I don't get it. I feel like it takes away from the authenticity of who they are. And it doesn't connect people further, right? There's a way where you can say, listen, I was a cop and I didn't think you'd know me. I wanted to know you. I wanted you to know me as me. Like, that's about proving that you care about connection.
Yeah. Or I guess I also think about Lisa Whelchel sort of hiding that she had this, child acting career. That
and
makes
Mike White
sense to
didn't
me.
tell people, right? Or did he? I'm trying to think.
Penner, I think, eventually outed her. He
No,
certainly
you said
talked
Mike
to her
White.
about it.
Mike White, though, did he tell people?
Oh, sorry, Mike White. No, it came out. It came out because people recognized him.
I mean, people like basketball stars, that kind of thing. I get that. I get it if it's about wanting to be seen for who you are and having a connection. That's a different version of, I don't want people to like know that I'm so great and so smart. I don't get that.
Yeah, I also think
Edna did that in my season. Edna didn't tell us she was a doctor. We were all like, it would not have changed anything. And it was very much that vibe, right? Of at the end when we finally, the first thing she said to me when I got to Ponderosa, truly the first thing, I still remember where I was sitting at the table, was, I'm a highly educated doctor. I was on Shark Tank. Here's the video of me. Actually, the video I think came when we got our phones in the airport. But it was all, you guys didn't know how smart and educated, and I don't need any of this, right? Even though you voted me out, look how great I am. And that's the vibe I got tonight.
Wow. Thoughts on Edna for season 50?
And that's a yes. What I don't understand about season 50 is, like, it should not be hard to just find 20 iconic people. They don't have to be people who played 3 times. They can be people who played 3 times. But they should, okay, the rule that I came up with this week is, if this is not somebody that would get Survivor fans to watch The Amazing Race, if they were cast in The Amazing Race, then you should not be casting them on season 50.
Wow. I love
End
that.
of story. And I think if Edna was on The Amazing Race, I would probably tune in. And there are so many good, iconic people. I've been told that the cast, like the cast that's kind of out there, is not accurate, but I think it's somewhat accurate. And I hope it's a great cast. I'm just worried.
Of the rumored cast, is there anyone that you are up out of your chair about the prospect of seeing back on the show?
Okay, I got to pull up a picture now.
And gotta ask while you're pulling that up, because you've got a pen with you. Are you taking notes right now?
No, I'm not. I'm just a little fidgety.
Okay.
Yeah, I often really prep for a podcast because I hate the idea of, you should prep, right? You're using up other people's times. You should have things to say. It has been a little bit of a crazy week. My husband and I bought a house next door to my parents. It's a cabin. We've been renovating it, and I truly did no prep at all for today. So I'm a little off. But this was the pen I may have taken notes with if I had been more prepared.
I never do any prep, so I feel like welcome to the jungle.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Who am I excited about? There's so many freaking things out there. I'm definitely excited about Amanda, but I got a little stressed when I went on Twitter this morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're hearing
Amanda Nation is in shambles.
because we were up out of our chairs about Amanda and Elizabeth, and now it seems the tide has turned and both are no longer on.
Elizabeth,
That's
too?
the rumor. I don't know.
Do you think that like they asked for something at the last minute, or just weird to get?
Well, Elizabeth has been in the mix for a long time, but it's at the last minute that the rumor is that she's out. When she would have backed out, I don't know. She just posted on her Instagram like 2 days ago a poll: "Am I going to be on Survivor 50?" And that seems like a weird thing to do if you're not on Survivor 50, especially if you're Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
Okay, I'm looking at the rumored cast. I mean, Coach is a strong yes for me. I definitely would see Coach again. Emily Flippin, I mean, I don't meet a lot of new era people. I saw her live at Rob Has a Podcast. Okay, this was another. Okay, I was in Boston. Rob Has a Podcast. I don't know. There must have been about 35 new era people there. I don't know how they all had the time to fly around and do this. We had these like groups that they put us on stage. I was.
Oh, this is Mother to the Pod.
Mother to the Pod just wants to say, will you say hi real quick?
Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Can we get a quick?
Sorry, Sophie. Sorry to interrupt, but Mom, can you just give real quick?
Can we give
just give 2 sentences on the Survivor 48 finale?
Not the most exciting. Wish I knew a lot more about the people and why were their nails so well groomed.
Yeah, she really had an issue with the nail grooming.
I did not notice the nail grooming.
Bye.
Okay, so sorry. Sophie, didn't mean to cut you off.
Just all these new era people that everyone on stage in groups. I was shocked by how little anybody had to say. And if anybody had anything to say, it was mostly some kind of like very inside joke callback to the one moment they had on TV that nobody in the audience remembered. A big exception to that, frankly, was Emily Flippin. She was just great. She was fantastic. I could listen and talk to her for a very, very long time. So I'm very pro getting Emily Flippin back on my screen. I have a very short memory. I almost don't remember anything about any of the new era seasons. I don't even remember necessarily being compelled by Emily Flippin on camera, but meeting in person, seeing her on stage at Rap, I would be very excited about Emily Flippin. Angelina's obviously yes. I'm a little bit like, I don't know if this is sacrilegious, a little bit meh on Suri. I've seen her a lot. I don't know what the next thing is that I'm going to see from her.
We totally agree. I think there's people like, and Evan will disagree with this one, but I feel the same way about Ozzy, that it's Suri, Ozzy, Parvati, like there's a lot of people, and look, we love these people, but do they have more story to tell on Survivor? Yeah. I do feel like they've sort of played their games, and we've seen 4 or 5 versions of their games.
Yeah. I'm sorry though, but cannot the same be said about Amanda?
No, the same can't be said about Amanda, because Amanda played 3 times within the span of like 2 years and barely got to play in Heroes versus Villains. And what's so interesting about Amanda is that she would be coming back all these years later, a mother, a recluse from the Survivor community. Where is she now? Whereas we just had Suri on the Traitors. We're about to get Suri on Australian Survivor. We had her on Big Brother. We've had Parvati recently on the Traitors. We're about to get her on Australian Survivor. Ozzy we saw on Game Changers, which wasn't that long ago.
That's my problem with Ozzy is Game Changers. South Pacific, I'm like, give it to me again. Game Changers Ozzy, I'm like, I don't know. Am I going to get Game Changers Ozzy again? Boring.
I hear you both. I do think Ozzy's a little bit in an in-between. I don't think he's comparable to Parv and Suri in that they were recently on screen and in such a dominant way. But I do understand the argument. I do think Ozzy's sort of in between of the Parv, Suri, and the Amanda there. Sophie, I want to get your thoughts on 2 other alumni who are, have recently making waves for some statements. So we have one future Drop Your Buffs guest, Cass, who went on Twitter and said, quote, "What is this pizza party finale BS? Haven't watched since WOW," and I think she meant Winners at War, but she said WOW. And I don't approve of Temu Survivor. Needs a new host and an old format. Sophie, reaction.
Give me more Cass. I mean, would Tony be who Tony is without Cass there on the season? I'm all for. I don't know if I doubt. I doubt Cass and I agree on many things in the world, but I'm pro Cass. Also, Cass would be a great cast. Like Cass has
Yes.
been kind of twittering a little bit, but like I don't know what Cass is like today. I would love to see Cass.
Well, get ready for her and drop your buffs.
I could name 50 people right going through these seasons, and it's not Jonathan. Jonathan, the only thing I like about Jonathan is the visual variation. Like sometimes in these shows, I feel like, especially these days, there's not enough visual variation. So I'm okay a little bit with like, okay, just give me a little, if some guy is huge and crazy and big, that maybe that's enough for a cast these days.
Any response to her calling the show Timu Survivor?
What does that mean? Is that one of the cast tribes? Oh, Timu. Oh, I got it. No, it's the Chinese factory stuff that never comes out. Honestly, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's not wrong,
Okay.
right? It's a little bit like actually. So I think you guys had me thinking right with the whole thing about like the cast. The issue is the cast. The issue is not the way they're playing, but the cast itself. And I had this moment, I think, watching the finale and thinking about that and feeling like it is just like a little bit off, right? Like all of these people are not all of them, but it's like everybody kind of like whitewashed the cast of Survivor, or is like trying to. I feel like I brought this up on a podcast before, but have you seen like the Recess episode, the cartoon where they go and play the like upside down recess? No, okay, that's a deep cut.
I remember you talking about this on the Survivor 47
I'm going to stop there.
episode, actually.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Natalie Bolton? She was brought up on Twitter this morning when I was looking.
Yeah, she's floating around. I would be very curious to see Natalie back, but really? I've been burned before where it's like Natalie's coming back, and she's never come back. It's very much giving Sean Rector, who also apparently has been cut from season 50, where it's like they're always in the mix, but they never quite make it. Jenna Lewis, another one who apparently is now back in, according if you're listening to the streets.
Listen, but Natalie's final tribal council question was great.
Yeah.
She had a couple of moments, but I don't know if I have confidence that she's great. Am I missing something?
You're not missing something. I would say that Natalie Bolton is the OG Genevieve, which is someone who gave very little on the show, but through sort of a, what's it called? History. What do they call it when you rewrite history? Like sort of, there's sort of this look back on these people. Yeah, exactly. As though they have a legacy that I don't think is supported on the show. But then here we go.
No, because
my only hope is she is great. And that's why she was in Heroes versus Villains casting. Like maybe there was more than we saw on the show.
This is the thing about Natalie Bolton is I hear where both of you are coming from. She had, if Micronesia was 13 episodes, she had 8 invisible episodes, right? And she really emerged in the end. The difference between her and Genevieve is that when she emerged, boy, did she emerge. And so I know that she has it in her to make great TV. I think that the editing of Micronesia specifically heavily favored the returnees and only turned their attention to the fans towards the end when it was just really Eric and Natalie left. And so I think it did a disservice because we saw in the end of that game that Natalie can make great TV. And it wasn't just her final tribal speech, it was also her confessionals. Remember, bitch slap him like his mother. I think there was some great at camp moments with Natalie Bolton as well. So I know that she can deliver. I think the editing was potentially unfair to her. I think we've seen glimmers, and then the legend that surrounds her, as you're sort of getting to, Evan, I think that has built up over time is enough to make me want to see what she can bring to the show. I'm open to the idea of her flopping, but again, similar to the conversation we had about Amanda in our 50 Rumor Mill episode, I'd rather know than not know. I think,
but I think to Sophie's earlier point, I am in agreement that I would like to see Natalie Bolton back on Survivor at some point. But I think to Sophie's point about would I want to see them on The Amazing Race, I don't think I'm clamoring for Natalie Bolton for season 50, where I'm wanting Elizabeth Hasselbeck-esque like stars on the show, of which I think we have an army of them in waiting.
So who's your top 5 for the stars?
If anyone could come back?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think at present, I think at Waffles, depending on who's top of mind, but like when you ask me the question, Fabio from season 21 is very top of mind for us. If we're being like crazy, I think Natalie White is someone for both of us that we would be super eager to come back because there's redemption needed. Brenda Lowe, I think we're deep in the 21 bag. Reed Kelly, Sean, take it over.
Yeah.
Reed, yeah.
I think going really old school, I think we would love to see Greg Bewis or Colleen Haskell.
Yeah, Greg.
Very important. Elizabeth Hasselbeck, certainly. Tina Wesson, Kathy Favreau O'Brien, I think top of list. John Carroll, I think.
Well, you want your girl, Helen
Kathy,
Glover.
I went to look at a house in Vermont, and she was the realtor.
Helen Glover. What? Wait, what?
Like 5 years ago, I went to look at a house in Vermont with my realtor, and Kathy was there selling it.
Oh my God!
It was awesome.
We need cameras up.
Wait, yeah. Did you take a picture?
No, but I can next time. My sister is moving to Vermont, and so she's run into Kathy now too. I mean, Kathy, she runs Vermont real estate.
Does she ever?
And she can run a tribal council. Okay, wait. So I just want to go back and comment on something you said and then ask you one other question about an alumni. But to your point about the new era casting, I think the moment with David, which we'll get to, I think, once we talk about Final Tribe, but the moment when he broke character from his knock knock moment, I think that sort of underlines a lot of our frustration with the new era casting, which is to say that like it all, when it does start to feel like it's getting to like a heated place that's reminiscent of like the old style of gameplay, or when we think we might be actually getting a bitter juror, it turns out to be an entire facade.
Yes.
And even the fact that afterwards you have everyone hugging each other as we go into the after show. I want people spitting on each other.
Kamilla encouraging Eva during the fire, right? You're in this moment where it's like so tense, and then, well, it's all okay. We're all playing a game.
Right. And so I think if that was like unique to Eva and Kamilla, but everybody else was at each other's throats, I think we might have a different response. But it just feels like there's a level of sportsmanship brought to the game now that is so antithetical to the game as we once knew it. And I think that remains startling to me.
Well, let me tell you, I think this has been, this is slow growing, and it's been this evolution that has been sad. And I will say I have contributed to it, because I remember before I went out at Winners at War, I remember, I'm sure a lot of people did this, but I very strongly remember when, what is her name? Andrea got voted out, I think, of Game Changers, or maybe it was Fans versus Favorite. And she had a very like, oh, you got me kind of approach. And my memory, and maybe everybody's going to correct me here, was that was one of the first times that somebody got voted out and had that kind of like charming, you guys, this is all a silly game, you got me. And I remember before going out in Winners at War, feeling like, I need to remember that that's the reaction I should have when voted out. Like I remember very intentionally feeling like, right, that's the kind of like good thing to do. And when I got blindsided at Winners at War, I was totally shocked. I thought I was going to win that game. I told my husband, I was like, I think I'm winning. It was like an out of body experience. And I had this reaction that was a forced reaction, which was, I think I kind of laughed, or I gave some kind of like, you got me reaction. I said something about having an idol in my crotch, which I think was maybe more genuine. I walked off and I just sobbed. And I sobbed when I walked off, and I sobbed the next morning on Edge of Extinction. And I was devastated. I thought I was about to win a game, and it was gone. And the fact that I had that preconceived feeling, right, of like, this is the right way to react in this moment of being blindsided, I think is like, it probably is how all these people feel, right? They go into the show and they're all this forcing of this, being a good game player, sportsmanship. And I wish that I had reacted and I had let myself react in the way that I felt. And I don't think people are anymore. Like, I think that there's this overlay of like, we all got to be good people. We all have to be good sports. And I think it's Survivor, but I also think it's the world.
Yeah, I do think it's the world. And I think that we talked about this a lot. It's the social media age of like, I don't want people coming for me. I don't want people calling me a sore loser. So everybody's putting on their best face, which is, I think, a detriment to a show like Survivor.
Now, I want to ask you about one other alumni tweet, and then we'll rewind the tape and talk about this finale. So this is from Alexis Maxwell of Survivor Cagayan. Can't say I know the name or the face, but she tweeted...
Wait. She is... I think she's a person.
Yeah, she's a person.
I don't know Cagayan.
What do you mean?
Like, it's non-canon to me.
Okay.
Like he watched it and forgot.
Are you gonna... I was gonna put. Oh, you watched and forgot it. Okay.
Yeah. Sean, does this name and face register for you?
Yes, it
okay.
does.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm not. What do I know? Clearly, I'm the hyperbolic, asshole. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you my take on Alexis really quickly, which is I think that she is in pre this super new era. I think there were these people that are now very common on the new era that made a lot more sense when there was just one of them on the tribe, right? Like maybe a hyper online Survivor super fan, kind of academic, but she was also kind of hot, so she was like a cool combo of all these things. And I think she had a place on that season. But the problem is now the whole cast is 20 Alexises.
Okay. Just Googled her. Can't say I know the face still, but nonetheless, icon, I'm sure. So Alexis Maxwell, icon of Survivor 28, tweeted, I know Survivor 49 was already filmed, but there is still time to go back and re-edit. If the editing team does anything close to what they did for 48 on 49, then they might not have any viewers for season 50. Hope they are having some very critical discussions right now. LOL. Sophie
Alexis
Clarke.
clearly didn't get a call for 50.
I don't think so.
I love the LOL ad.
Yeah.
How old is she? I guarantee she's 31.
Any reaction to that scathing statement?
Well, I just want to know more. Like, is she reacting to like too much of the happy clappy singing stuff? Is she reacting to the kind of the teasing of there's going to be a move and there's not a move? So I will say the editing was not for me. It all comes down to the cast always. The editing was I'm missing the big complaint about the editing.
I think the complaint about the editing that I certainly am coming out of the finale with is the treatment and presentation of Joe. I think that a lot was hidden, and I'm not suggesting that there's like a really dark side to Joe or anything like that, but I think Joe got decimated at the final tribal council and we didn't see it. I think we've been looking forward to this for a long time, this sort of mentality of moving through the game, loyalty, integrity, but having to vote all these people off. And there was no reckoning for Joe with regards to that. And there's a reason he didn't win, right? Like there's a reason he got one vote.
Like Coach got the reckoning on my season. Sean, do you have anything specific that makes you feel like there was a reckoning that we didn't see, or you just feel like there must have been?
I don't have anything specific. The only thing that I can point to is on rewatching the final tribal council, he looked shattered. And I know you pointed that out with Eva's job reveal, but I think it's much bigger than that. It seemed like
and I thought
he
it happened
knew
at the Kyle thing too. The Kyle Shaheen thing. I thought I saw him getting shattered in that moment.
Yeah, but I don't think that's even
when
enough.
It was revealed what he was.
I think what we saw in the finale was that for the first time in different ways, Eva making fire, Joe in the final tribal council, both of them for the first time in the game in 26 days had something not go their way. And their reaction was not great to it, right?
So unappealing, right?
And so I think that Joe took something very hard at Final Tribal Council, and I think it's got to be bigger. Yeah, it was probably that Eva had hidden something from him. Yes, it was probably the Shaheen move reveal.
Yeah.
But I think there's more to it, and I suspect that even if the jury didn't strike me as bitter in any way whatsoever. But
this is my mom, by the way. What did you think of the show? She watched the finale.
What show?
Yeah.
Oh, and the show, it was too tragic. It's too tragic. Poor Kamilla.
Oh, she liked Kamilla.
That was an iconic review.
Wow. Oh my God. Need her on the family visit.
But yeah, I think that there had to be some kind of reckoning with Joe. I don't think it was a bitter jury, but I do think that at some point people had to distinguish between the games. And I think Joe's either got swept under the rug or discarded or completely ignored, or they said, hey, you played loyalty, integrity, honesty, and you voted me out. Well, and so I think that it may not have been like a lashing, but I think that he was probably criticized for the first time in 26 days.
Sean, I was confused as well because I feel like there was some hype, and maybe it was Jeff hype that I should no longer listen to about the tribal council being spicy. And I was totally expecting exactly what you said. I mean, for me, this whole season has given South Pacific vibes. And so I was expecting the confrontation of Ava and Joe, right? Saying, hey, like, you can't claim this morality and loyalty when you're not actually living it. Like, that's why I thought, right, that like I thought if Shaheen was going to be in the finale, he was going to be able to win because it was going to be this whole kind of South Pacific 2.0 thing. And it wasn't, right? It was weirdly just like, you guys all talk about how great your games are, and we'll see whose game is greater. Well, what about talking about how shitty their games are and see who games is the shittiest?
Yeah.
I think the lack of presence of Say was so felt in this episode, particularly because all of the quote unquote reveals that happened at Final Tribal got cutaways to people with their jaw dropped. And it's like, I think we needed more eye rolls and people just being like, IDGAF. So yes. But for me too, with that Final Tribal, this episode, I mean, they all do, but this episode felt very long for me.
Yeah.
And I think finales typically do, but I think there was something about the inevitability of the Mitch part of the episode and feeling like there's a frustration that for me occurs when someone's going home, it's made known, and we still have to do the rigmarole of Tribal. Yeah. And then also there's this thing that happens on New Era with the host where the conversation becomes sum up your experience.
Yeah, sum up your journey.
On the show.
Or just like the endless questions about like, how are you feeling right now? Like, I don't, you know, what's the feeling of this? And frankly, even Kamilla, I think, I don't want people to be encouraged into talking about their growth over 26 days. Like, I'm not interested in watching somebody's growth. I'm just interested in watching them. You know, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I just, it's too much of a commentary, right? Endless commentary about the feelings of the show and the story of the people versus no story. There's no story. There's just talking about the story.
I'm glad that you brought this up because the most frustrating thing to me was actually in the after show when the host asked Kyle, who just won, hey, look around at all the people who voted for you. How is that? What is that feeling? And then Kyle sort of like gets a little choked up. And instead of letting that moment play out, the host goes, I'll come back to you. And it's like, no, this is the one time I actually want to hear this answer and it feels meaningful. And we're just, no. We'll let you be.
By the time they come back to him, he's like, you know, I just want to say I'm so grateful for playing with you all. It's been such a joy. You guys are all such great competitors.
No,
great.
Who cares?
On the 26th day of it all subject, I'm wondering, for me, I noticed more specifically in this finale than any other how little weight people seem to have lost throughout the season.
Oh, my mother noticed that too.
I think particular seeing the muscle definition on Joe and Kyle all the way through to the end game. I'm wondering if either of you had any reaction to just the fact that like this is the final five, we get this shot of them, and they just simply don't look in any sense of the word malnourished.
And maybe that plays into the whole feeling of like everybody's cosplaying Survivor, right? Is that like this is an afternoon in the woods and it's all everybody's fed and doing the thing. Yeah, agree.
When you think about people whose bodies shifted over time, like for me, Chase Rice comes to mind as like, obviously Colby is another one. Are there people that you can recall that came in really, really muscular and then by the end were skin and bones?
James Clement, I remember. I think Courtney Yates. Who else?
Was there anybody on South Pacific that you recall having a major transformation?
Oh, I mean, I lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
I feel like I didn't recognize myself coming out of that. All of us. I mean,
I felt like Coach was pretty skeletal by the end.
Coach was. I mean, by the way, South Pacific. I mean, I don't want to be like that old person, but we didn't have any rice. We just had coconuts, which I'm pretty sure was because they wanted to make Ozzy's powers more powerful. Okay,
well, we should touch down on our winner because we barely talked about him. We have a new winner joining the winner's circle with Sophie, Kyle Fraser, noted graduate of the Karen Gradell School of Performing Arts. A lot was made of the acting that Kyle and Kamilla did, and specifically this move against Shaheen. That felt to me like the turning point in the final tribal council where you saw the jury shift from being potentially undecided to voting, like to having a clear winner. And was that enough? Like, was that your read on it? Was it was the one Shaheen move and that Kamilla and Kyle were acting?
I don't know, because I think, Sean, your point is like, I agree. I think we missed something in the tribal. That said, that move, I think my sister and my friend who I watch every week, I think there was a lot of debate about whether that was worth it or not worth it, or like a big move or like a stupid move. I will say my general reaction to that kind of thing usually is I hate the resume building, right? This idea of like, let's just do things for the purpose of talking about things. My own, I do, I question though on this one, there's a part of me that understands why it was an important move to make and why it was meaningful. And my thought is, for me on South Pacific, as an example, I had this story at the end of like, I was the one in control. And actually, I only had one, trying to think, I had one very specific example to give to prove that that was true. And it was something that actually never made TV. And it was about when we voted out Michaela, that Albert and I had done this whole thing of basically like forcibly splitting the votes and having Coach on the other side and us on the side of Michaela. That way, if Michaela came back into the game, which we thought was likely because she's so athletic, that she would be on our side and not his side, and that it wouldn't be a unanimous vote, blah, blah. Anyway, what was important, but mostly at the end of the game, it was me just needing to prove by the way I spoke and who I am that like I wasn't a sheep, right? And that like I actually intentionally chose, keeping this structure in place. My take on the Kyle move, with Kamilla, is that this was a great example to show that if they hadn't done this, right, they would need to prove in every moment of the game, while you thought Joe was in control, I actually had options. And while I didn't choose to take any of them because it wasn't in my best interest, I had an option. And I guess this was a way of proving, right, that even if it was a small thing, it's a great proof of Joe fundamentally actually didn't know what was going on, right? That I had the power over Joe. I had the convincing power. I had the intellectual power. I had if I had wanted to do more, I could have done more. So I think the move actually, in many ways, I kind of get it. And I think that it does have an impact to show who was more in control. But I don't fully understand, frankly, how the jury received that, because there were so much shots of Kamilla and Shaheen during that whole thing that I couldn't tell what was really happening.
Can I ask both of you for your thoughts on, obviously we have this moment with Eva in the final tribal declaring her and Joe, her and the firefighter, one of the greatest duos of all time, to which then Kamilla kind of wants to step in and be like, psych, it's actually myself and Kyle. For me, neither of them even register in the conversation around great duos. I obviously think there's a lot of erasing of history or just a lack of thought around some of the great duos. Because even when we do talk about great duos, I feel like everyone goes to JT and Steven right away, who obviously are a great duo. There are so many great duos throughout Survivor history, dating back to Rich and Rudy, and continuing on throughout history. I'm wondering, obviously I think we know the firefighter and Eva, not one of the great duos, but they believe that to be true. I'm wondering, though, there's a lot of conversation now about Kyle and Kamilla being this great duo and getting a lot of credit for how stealth it was, even though some jury members are coming forward and saying, we knew you two were working together. Yeah. I guess my question is, even if they did successfully keep it stealth, the lack of consequential moves that they made in the game, those several weeks of them choosing to stay with the majority alliance, I guess I'm just wondering, do you both feel like they factor into the conversation around great duos of the game?
No. I think that the post-game interviews have really made their secret alliance, put that in question. I think like it's cool that they won the game, but was what they had to kind of accomplish as a duo great? It didn't seem like it, right? It seemed like maybe they could have done that, but we didn't see it. Yeah, I wouldn't put them up there. No, I don't think so.
But I guess I'm wondering, even if they had successfully, if let's say at the final tribal, they're like, we're a duo, and everyone's like, oh my God, holy shit. I just don't think they made any consequential moves as a stealth duo outside of the Shaheen boot, which again, I don't even think was like that big of a move.
Yeah.
Because you even have this scene with the firefighter in this finale episode being like, we might have been lied to, but we just chose to believe the alternative. Like, I can conceive of the alternative, which to me tells me the move wasn't so grand.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what I'm wondering about. Like, is there a world in which, say they were successfully evasive, does that a great duo make?
No, and I think this just comes down to like the casting, right? Which is I like Kyle and Kamilla both as people. I would say my friend Isabel, who watched, was obsessed with them as a duo, mostly because I think she found really charming the kind of like jock, maybe nerd-esque pairing, right? That's always kind of that's some seeing a pairing that maybe you wouldn't expect in real life is nice. She was really shipping them, but I don't think that their interactions with each other were electric in any way. But I think that probably comes down to them more individually and less of them as a duo.
I thought it was really strange when before the final immunity challenge that they go and tell each other, hey, if I win, you're going to fire. Why do that before
Terrible.
you have to make that decision?
Well, also, like, don't you want to see them guilt each other into taking them?
Yeah.
Like, well, there's no point in doing that. Like, all you're doing is ruining your chances at being able to convince the other person to take you.
Yeah.
But that's, no, I was totally, oh, yeah, that was another reason, Evan, that like the whole thing had no stakes, right? First, we knew Mitch was going to go, and then we knew who was going to be taking into fire. Like, there was no question mark through the whole episode.
Right, and then we get to fire, and obviously fire remains one of the more contentious aspects to the current structure of the game. If there's any kind of reevaluation of fire making, I think this is a great example of the fact that if the other person can't so much as get a fire going, then it's sort of like all stakes are lost. Like there was nothing here because even though, sure, we had the moment of like Eva's fire isn't maintaining, well, if the other competitor can't even get the fire going, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Sure, her fire was going down, but we knew she'd be able to get it back up. I thought like this was ultimately a great example of the case against fire making.
Yeah. I agree. Sorry, I'm just still thinking about the duo thing. And also, I was looking at ChatGPT for your revisit, reconsideration, reassessment. Anyway. Okay, Joe and Eva, going back to what you said earlier, I actually think that they have potential to be a great duo if they had been edited differently. Meaning, think about this editing, right? There is this problem of the editors feeding us the answer. Like, this is how to think about Joe and Eva. They're this beautiful, loving, Joe is a protector, and, Eva's overcoming her autism. But to your point, like, there is so much more complicated about them. And, like, as somebody who potentially, like, if you had played with them, I would imagine we saw people being frustrated without getting to see the full complexity of their duo, right? And seeing how people may have reacted to them and liked them or not liked them. It is, I think they're not complex enough to like them as a duo, right? They were one-sided.
I think that's what makes some of the great duos. So some are coming to mind, like Tina and Colby, right? They're very similar in that they are edited in a heroic way, but you get to see the reactions to that from the other cast members, particularly Jerry Manthe and Amber. Even Amber, another member of a great duo with Boston Rob in All Stars, and you see the reaction to that. They get dragged to hell in the final tribal council for that. Another great duo, Parvati and Russell in Heroes versus Villains, and you see how people react to them. So I think you're right. It is I don't know whether it's the editing or people didn't have that reaction to them. I can't tell if people really held them up as great people and so didn't speak badly about them. Is that why the moves were never made against them? I really have no sense. I feel like there is a piece missing to this puzzle, but I don't quite know where or what.
Would you be interested in seeing Joe back again?
No, I definitely wouldn't.
Despite your comments around you feeling like there's an undertone to Joe that is, the undertone to Joe makes me interested, right?
Well, right, but because the edit was as it was in this season, what would make us think that it would be any different? No, I would not be interested in seeing the firefighter again. The only member of the final five that I'd be interested in seeing play the game again would be Kamilla, because I feel like Kamilla is the most old school coded. That said, and I feel like there's a read of the Drop Your Buffs recaps that sort of is such where we haven't given Kamilla her due, and I think there's room for that conversation. I think for me, the lack of excitement I feel for Kamilla, to me, is more the edit than Kamilla, the player of the game. I think I have no qualms whatsoever about Kamilla, and I actually think Kamilla would be someone I'd be really excited about in a different edit of the season. And I think there's a lot of times where people say, like, oh, if only I had been on a different cast. I think Say has been one really saying this. I don't totally subscribe to that because it's like, this is your shot. Like, you do with it what you can. That said, I would be eager to see Kamilla on a different season where she played with people more competitive.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Kamilla, I think, showed that she has like an amazing way of navigating from like not a position of power. And so it makes you really interested to see her play with anybody who's powerful, and how is she going to be able to, get that powerful person in the way that she was able to get the Joe. And seeing Kamilla even frankly playing with like a Colby and a Suri, right? You could imagine her being, just as unassuming and successful in the background. Kamilla to me is more interesting than a lot of people, like more interesting than Genevieve. I don't get the Genevieve thing.
I think it's really interesting, this idea of if I were to play with a different cast, because I think, Sophie, you're a great example of that and how to overcome that, where I bet in South Pacific, correct me if I'm wrong, but I bet you were like, I wish I had a different cast. Like, I wish I was on a different cast.
When? Because I was no. I mean,
when you had to join the cult and pray every morning.
Oh no, I was like, I immediately felt like this is great for me.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
So, yeah,
because
no,
in my percent, like my thing was going to be, because you took the cast you were given, and then you adapted appropriately. Where I think somebody like Say is unadaptable, which made her great TV, but not good at the game.
Yeah, I think that's right. Although I do think that one of my fears on Winners at War, which probably is why I gravitated towards people I gravitated towards, was a feeling of like, I think I am more comfortable playing with people who are less like me, because I feel more that I am able to hide like my real self. And if people are more similar to me, I feel more like they can see through me. And I think the whole Winners at War game with Kim, like Kim and I were kind of allies, but kind of, I don't know if that was ever really shown, but like we had a huge kind of, we're allies, but I always felt like maybe we're not allies. I think she sees me and like I need to get her before she gets me. Whereas for me on South Pacific, I felt very quickly like I own the perception of me. Like they see me in a very certain way that I own. And the ownership of the perception makes me incredibly powerful. And I felt like that cast, particularly because of Coach being a coach and all of the religion and frankly, the kind of like MAGA-ish kind of vibe of the people, it made me feel very in control very quickly.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, before we wrap up this main show, will you stick around for the after show? We have some questions for you.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Sure. My mom's watching the kids.
Great.
Okay. Before we wrap up, can we just get some broad thoughts on Kyle as a winner, Kyle's winning game? He's joining this well, it's not so exclusive anymore. There's quite a lot of you, but...
I thought you were going to say elite, and I was like, not so elite.
Is it exclusive?
I'm having a hard time with Kyle this morning because I saw some clip online of him like jumping onto a table, and it just, have you guys seen this?
Yes.
I missed that one.
It just gave me a lot of ick.
Yeah, it's something sports related. I think it's probably like his team.
He was at like a tailgate, and he kind of like...
He jumps from the back of a pickup truck through a table.
Mm-hmm. But it's more of his commentary around that gave me a little bit of an ick. But that said, Kyle, putting that aside, how is he as a winner? I mean, I think that I thought his final tribal council approach of saying that he was average is a great way, right, to appeal to a jury who wants to feel like they should have won, if only for XYZ, right? A jury doesn't want to hear, I'm better than you in every single way. A jury wants to hear, like, basically you got lucky. And I think that's another way, right, saying on average is a way of saying, I don't, Anyway, how do I feel about him as a winner? I think better than Gabler, better than a lot of people. I put him probably very close in the middle. I think for TV, purposes and the amount of entertainment on the lower side, but in terms of like how he played the game strategically, I would put him on the higher side.
First person to make a final tribal council pitch based on their bubble butt that I know of.
Are you sure? That feels like something that's happened before.
Is it a bubble butt though, or is he just, as he said, caked? Because I do think there's a differentiator.
He brings up the bubble yet again. The editing. He brings up the bubble butt in the final tribal council. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you
the only
didn't see
bubble butt I
butt?
saw was Joe's.
I will say, he looks exactly like my brother-in-law, and a little bit of it is how he dresses. Some of it is the face shape, but I think it's the bubble butt. I think that's the thing I was kind of
Oh,
honing in on.
okay. So you
I
saw
definitely
it.
noticed
You
the bubble
saw it.
butt. Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
think he was also wearing shorts that particularly like accentuated it, the type of pockets in the back.
Okay. Sounds like I need a 48 rewatch.
Before we bring you over to the after show, if you just, spitballing here, in the pantheon of Survivor seasons, we've had 48 now. Where are you putting 48? Would you top 5, top 10, top 20, bottom 5? Where is it hitting for you now? We've seen it all. Top 5, right?
Uh, no, for me, it's bottom 15. I need to look at the bottom and remind myself what's in there. But frankly, for me, most of the new era is in the bottom. Yeah, I'm putting it bottom 15. How about this? I'm putting it probably somewhere between, it's 50 seasons. Let's just round. I don't know, ranking somewhere between 32 and 42. That's my guess.
Wow, so you think there are 8 seasons that are worse than 48?
Well, then maybe more like, I don't think it's in the bottom 5. There must have been terrible seasons, right?
So you're saying in an abstract sense, it can't be bottom 5, but you don't have the 5 examples to bring forward.
Yeah.
You're just saying with some level of certainty,
But
it just couldn't be.
I don't even think I can name the top, the 10 new era winners or whatever that we have.
Uh-huh.
But I just think it can't be. I have left this season feeling low and disappointed.
This is such a heel turn, Sophie.
Yeah.
But that said, like that's how the end of the season was. I think the pre-merge was pretty fun in this season.
It was.
Like I think that the pre-merge people, and so that's why I'm just trying to be careful here. Is that I didn't leave this season feeling great, but I think if you look at it in retrospect against a lot of other seasons, it might end up being higher than just how I feel about it right now.
Yeah, we've had some new era seasons with dreadful pre-merges. I'm thinking Banu in season 46. Particularly, that was a real drag of a pre-merge, and then it picked up in the post-merge. Here we have sort of the flip reverse of that. I think it's just harder to leave a season on a low because then the whole season gets colored with that.
I guess maybe you find it easier. I find it harder to rank the bad. Meaning, like, if it's not good, it's not good, right? There's a bunch of seasons that are just not that compelling, and like I wouldn't want to rewatch it. But I think it's more interesting. There's probably like 20 seasons of Survivor that you would want to debate somebody about which season is better than the other. Mm-hmm. But for the bad seasons, I don't find it so interesting to debate like which one is worse. Because it's just like icky.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think for me, what I have found in rewatching a lot of the older seasons that I previously thought were floppy, like for me, I had Guatemala was the first season I hated in my watch of the show. But then I went back recently and rewatched the first few episodes and I was like, oh my God, this is cinema. So I think for me, what makes the older seasons, even the less good older seasons work is that they have, even when they're not perfectly cast, they have that level of competitiveness, they have the survival component, and they have the brutality of the challenges, which is something that I love. This is why Survivor Australia pings for me the way it does. I like combat challenges. I like when 2 people are getting up there. I like that warrior mentality that is no longer a part of the show. So for me, that's why even, a Thailand, for instance, which I know is ranks bottom of the barrel for most people, like even that no choking zone moment to me, like that ranks it. It immediately like flies up the list for me just by that moment alone.
I think season 41 to 48 cannot. I don't think a single one of those seasons can rank higher than 36. Meaning, like, I think you could probably argue that maybe a couple of those are better than like a 30s, right? Or maybe a late 20s.
Maybe, yeah.
But I think I agree with you fundamentally that like they're incomparable in terms of Thailand, right, should not be anywhere in the bottom 10 or sorry, in the bottom 15 seasons, given what we've been given over the last 10 years.
Yeah, there was some discussion on Twitter earlier this season of like, if we revisited Redemption Island, oft considered the worst season of Survivor, how would it compare now? How would we watch that today, having seen the new era? Very interesting experiment.
It sounds like...
I think it would go well.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like what we're getting at is Cass's comment of Temu Survivor. Yeah.
Listen, I wish they would do this. I've said this for years. I just want them to go and pick up a cast off the street that's never seen the show Survivor. And let's see it, and like maybe we're all wrong and this is not what's the wrong with Survivor. But I just think that the hyper aware meta nature of Survivor it's no longer Survivor. It's like a play of Survivor. And it's not as good.
Wow.
It's a sequel.
Sophie, you have gone to the dark side, I fear. With that in mind, let's go even darker. Let's end things here and kick it over to the after show because we have some fans with some questions directly for you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, good thing I'm joining.
Okay, we're going to take it over to the after show. Do we want to give an emoji? Do we need to do that anymore? We're going to give an emoji.
Oh my gosh.
And so
That's my husband.
we're going to post at least a meme on we're going to post a meme on the Instagram and ask people to drop an emoji under it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi.
Oh my God.
You want to say hi, Robinson?
Hi.
No, you don't want to say hi? They're going to ask me some questions, okay? Okay.
Yeah. Sophie, do you want to pick an emoji for people to comment?
Oh yeah. Should we do is there a donut emoji? Let's do a
there is.
donut.
There's a donut emoji.
Let's do the donut.
You want to say hi?
Oh my God. We're getting
It's
the
a
whole
family
family
affair.
on the pod.
It's a family visit.
Hey, wide open because they want to ask me some questions.
Wow.
Hi.
This year.
Sophie, did they know that Mom is famous?
Not aware of much in the world. Okay, let's see what questions they ask us, okay? We're not going to press that though. Ready, Tilly, for a question?
Yeah.
Okay.